Hello, good afternoon. How are you? And welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. I'm Dani Voriskova, and it is a pleasure to be here with you today. So, a lot has changed since I seen you last week, and one of those things would be my life. Over the weekend, I have gotten engaged, and I am just still trying to absorb it. And I yes, I'm over the moon. My head's in the clouds still, so maybe that's a good thing for anyone here, coming in for a reading today. But yes, I want to share that joy with you. And also, I know that we mentioned last time that this is also my birthday month. So happy July 1st, and I'm a Cancerian. So if you would like any of my services, you can go to newworldservices.org. And for this month only, and as a tribute to our Moonstruck TV, I would like you to put in the word Moonstruck, and we're going to be doing a 50% off to all of our family here on A1R. So definitely take advantage of that now. Now, I have something interesting that I was a little reluctant to share, but it's been nagging me. So I said, okay. And of course, you should know if you've been here week after week, you would know that I do bring something atypical to the show. So before we get into our calls, I want to tell you about something, right? I want to tell you a little story. So I'm a psychic medium. And obviously, as a medium, I connect to loved ones on the other side. And that's a handful in itself. It's a blessing, and it's a lot. A few years back, I started having health issues. And I said, wait, what in the world is going on? It didn't make sense. And finally, after all this testing, all these visits, I had heard now it's time to contact an ENT, ear, nose, throat. And I thought to myself, that's just the weirdest thing. Like, of all this equilibrium, my vision was off. I was spaced out. Spatial perception was off. It was all these different things were happening. And yes, everything did seem extremely loud. And I was under the impression that that's some type of anxiety, that of course I don't feel right. So I heard this, and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm tired. I want to get to the bottom of this. So let me go see. I went to an appointment, just so happens to be one of the best in the world, actually. And he did all the testing on me, and he was shocked looking at me, and I had thought, well, okay, I don't know, what are you going to tell me? I'm mentally unwell. What are you going to tell me? Because I've been through every test imaginable. And actually, he pulled up his chair and he said, okay, I'm going to brace you for something. You have a very rare inner ear condition. And of course, that's strange, but I'm curious. Okay, what are we talking about here? And longer story short, it's called superior canal dehiscence. And then there are multiple variations of this. And one of them would be Tulio phenomenon. So Google that if you're interested. I'm not going to waste our time here getting into that, but that covered everything that I was experiencing. He said, I bet you're experiencing this. Let's try this. Let's do that. It was over a 2-hour appointment. And he said, if nothing else, I know you're probably really freaked out. He's such a good guy. I said, well, yeah, definitely. And he said, if nothing else, now you have a peace of mind. At least you have answers. So that was the start of something, it just wow for me. So I go home and I'm receiving all these downloads, all this information clairvoyantly and, through mediumship. And I go to clearly explain this to my family, and they're just looking at me like, "But what do you mean?" So, okay, that didn't go very far, but I was dealing with this alone, right? And I said, okay, I don't know. I start to do a little research. And in- what happened to me was I actually went into my bathroom and I was so overwhelmed. I looked into the mirror and I had a blouse with print on it. And when I had looked into this mirror and I was very tired, my eyes were relaxed, I noticed the print on my blouse was appeared to be moving. And I said, I know I'm tired, but and then I realized that yes, this is something that I notice a lot. And I just thought it was anxiety, right? And I looked a little further into it and I said, oh my God, I know what this is. And I had this huge epiphany and download. I was like, this looks to me like the image on Starry Night, right? So, for those of you familiar with any kind of art, Vincent van Gogh, famous artist, he painted the Starry Night. And he's known for all of his artwork having the theme that covers this form of vision, right? This form of what someone with my condition would see on a pretty regular basis. I just didn't. It was pretty normal at that point. So I thought, wow, okay, that's interesting. Now I have something to at least look into and to see. So I went down this rabbit hole, and I ended up it's like crazy to say this. I'm not an art fan. Like, no offense to it, but I'm just not. But I went down this rabbit hole and I started noticing different things. And when I had seen in his art, I had seen a picture of him with his ear cut off. And I said, "You got to be kidding me. No wonder you cut your ear off. I know because I see the problem that you have and I know what this is. And this stinks. It's like ear ringing, it just makes auras even stronger. There's a lot to it, which supernatural living, we're going to get into this later on. There's a big connection there. But so when I had acknowledged that wait a second, I don't really know much about any of this. I said, but I do know this. I can see this clearly. In a short period to come, he had contacted me, and I had thought to myself, oh, go figure. This is actually a relief. This is a relief to be able to talk to someone who can identify with this. And since I'm not an art fan, I really just took it for what it was, just, hey, how you doing? You're on the other side, and so I began to listen to what he had to share. And the bottom line of his point was that he had been mistaken for having a mental illness, and now trying to explain himself that, hey, this is the way I seen, this is the way I painted because of this condition. He says, oh my gosh, you let's go tell him that we need to make this right. And I thought, of course, yeah, I'll help you. Absolutely. Now I know enough about the condition to be able to explain it. Just tell me what you'd like me to pass on, and I'm going to get back to my life, so no, not a problem there. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to put some paper together, I'll put an email together and maybe send it to Van Gogh museum somewhere, someone who knows about him. And I was like, look, this is great, right? Here you go. Move on. And I don't know why I was so aloof about this. I know that when I repeated this to other people, they've simply, just stared at me like, what are you getting at here? But this is real. This is what happened. So I sent this out thinking simple enough. And every time, like the few people that I contacted, and the major news network, whatever those guys, just here, New York Times, where I am, take it. This is yours. And to no surprise, they they laughed at me. They laughed at me. I don't know if they thought like, what are you on? What are you taking? Or what do you need to be on? But they wouldn't even listen to what he had to say, right? What was happening here. And I sat back, and he is visiting me. And he's a very humble, very quiet man, actually. So there he is, and he says, so, and I could just laugh, in a bittersweet laugh, saying, well, I didn't have much luck either, buddy. No one wants to hear what I have to say. I don't know what to do. I feel bad. I don't know what to say. And so this dialogue had gone on for a couple years, and we had talked back and forth, and just said, okay, well, we need this type of person to be able to understand what I'm trying to tell them to get your message out here. And years later, along came these type of people into my life: scientists, researchers, art fanatics, just people that understand the extra information that I couldn't verbalize. And thankfully, they're the kindest people. So when I had the opportunity and I felt safe enough, I shared this with them. And for the first time, I didn't get the stink eye. I didn't get this, uh, what kind of face. And that surprised me. I'm wondering, what are they doing? They're comfortable. Intellectually, I would have thought, absolutely. Integrity wise, I would know, yes, this was the right people to talk to. Come to find out, the people that I had met that were talking about gratitude, were just real nice people. They were involved in projects with writing biographies, writing, mm, different things for those who have crossed on the other side. But for people that I have the books here. The books were gifted to me. So one, for instance, they said, "Oh yeah, guess what? Are you familiar with so and so?" I said, "Apparently you've got Van Gogh." And I said, "Mm, I don't know. I don't know." And they said, "Are you familiar with this Jane Roberts? She had Rembrandt." And I'm thinking, what? You want me to write a book? Who are these people? And then obviously the others, they said, well, we have, Plato, Spinoza, we have this one and that one. They're like, so welcome, awesome. We can connect you and get you going. And I'm thinking, like, I can't write a book. I'm not a writer. What? I'm so happy that these people understand, but I said, how about I'll tell you, and you can take this one. And the smiles were there and the support was there, and it was, you've got this. You got this. So talk about manifesting. Manifesting my husband here. I'm manifesting summer days. I'm manifesting all this stuff, but I was not aware that I would manifest the right connections at the right time, so specifically to help me along my path. What are the chances of crossing paths with such a particular group of people who were exactly what I needed. Coming into A1R Psychic Radio, also, I had it in my heart that I want to share things. I was nervous about sharing this, but I want to help people. I want to share. And then we cross paths. And that's not the most common thing to cross paths with. And so coming back to this Van Gogh, channeling, being a channeled writer, channeling is a thing. You can look into it. It's a pretty big thing. And I said, okay, I have to write this. I don't know. I'd rather just write a paper, something. And I sat down, determined to say, let me get started. I just felt this urge. I have to get started on something. I just grabbed a notebook. As I grabbed, I'm old fashioned, notebook, pencil. And what I ended up doing was I grabbed the books that were gifted to me. Now, I did not read these books, right? I just had them in my presence. So I grabbed these books and I had the this clairvoyant mediumship epiphany where I said, "Wow, okay, these writers channeled them and they wrote it together." So I stacked all these books on my desk and I said, "All right, let's go. You guys get in here, help me write something." He's not a writer. Van Gogh's not a writer. I'm not a writer. So help us get this out. And to my surprise, but not to my surprise, we started writing together. We started a format. We started writing. We had gotten about 10 pages in, and it was such a calm, cool experience, like sitting with a friend. I had to take a breath after. My friend had said, "Hey, how's it going? How's your writing going?" And I had to take a breath after. And then I said, just although I never do this, it's kind of a rule. Like, we don't really read our own writing. We don't really look for confirmation. We pretty much just trust what we get and we go as mediums. But before I shared that anywhere, I said, I'm going to dig and I'm going to look to see if some of these facts that he was talking about were somewhere out there. So, not in the mainstream, but digging a little further in there. What do you know? Yes. Yes, they were there. And I was so humbled by this experience that I had to put it down. You'd think like we do this as mediums all the time, but for me and for the mediums that I know, even psychics, we still get wowed. We still have this wow factor after spending time with you. It doesn't leave us. It's not something easy breezy and we brush it off. It's a really beautiful, beautiful feeling. So I know that we had callers here, but I had to share this. I've had his book on my desk and he's looking at me. And I said, I don't know how to share this. I don't know what to do. And it hasn't even occurred to me to say, you know what, of 500,000 people out here, maybe someone knows what to do. I don't know. And if not, I hope you're smiling. I hope you're laughing. And quick note before we get going, I've used so much time, right? I said, I just need a break with this. I'm going to get back into it, but I was like, I need a break. I had gone to the local home goods store and I said, that's it, zoning out, done. And, smelling candles. I walk over to this section where there's, some art prints, printed works. And I look and I said, oh my gosh, look at that. Like that's amazing. And then I hear him, Van Gogh, I hear him standing by me. And he said, see, he said, I told you. He said, that's Monet. And I was like, what? And he said, no one wants mine. He's like, now they do. But back then he said they didn't understand it. And he's like, now you get it. And I felt bad. I said, okay. So the difference in the design and the art style is significant. And I said, all right. And I grabbed his huge print and I'm like, let's go. let's go. Let's go, buddy. I don't know. I'll keep trying. So I had to get it off my chest. And if you laugh at me, I don't know. Laugh with me, not at me. And I love you guys so much. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing this journey. And if we have any time, can we get into a caller? Let's see, who do we have with us? Brittany, are you still with us?
I am.
Hi, Brittany. How are you? Sorry we kept you on hold. How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Good. So, what can we do for you?
I was kind of just looking maybe for a general reading because there's like too many questions that I came up in my head, so I was like, just go with a general reading.
Okay. Um, let's see. Gonna just ground a little second here. That was a hyper story. All right, let me just ground a second and let's see where we can find maybe the most significant message for you. Okay, so the first thing I'm seeing, Brittany, is blocks, and it looks like these are children's blocks. So it looks like something that a young child would play with. And before we get into this, I'm going to determine whether we're connecting to loved ones or specifically your life right now. So let's see, child's blocks. And I'm hearing the word school. Does this resonate with you? Does this make sense?
Um, I mean, I guess considering yeah, I mean, I mentioned that today that my
Okay.
employees are like children.
Okay. Well, thank you so much
I
for the confirmation. Let me just see what else I can see about this, but that was the very first impression. And let's see. Dun, 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 school. Okay. We have this, we have that. So I can feel into your heart, and I can feel this, say this heart, this excitement, heaviness. I get this feeling that that you are facing um the option of a change, and but it does feel like it's somewhat forced, or say urged, forced. Would you understand that?
yeah.
Okay. And this feels this is very sad. This is definitely sad for all. So I feel like this would be the most important thing to look into right at the moment. Now, I do see another man, and this man is coming to me. He's coming to me with dark hair. And I do get the feeling that, let's see, come over here. He's coming in. He's important to this situation that's occurring. And now I'm also getting details about a possible move, relocation, or change of focus to a place that would be next to water, a large body of water. Would that make
Yep.
sense to you?
Absolutely. My
Yes,
Yes.
Brittany.
You want
Okay.
me to elaborate or no?
You know what? I am seeing and I am feeling you, but if you I had taken so long and I would just love to spend time with you and see how I can really best help you. So if you would love to share with us, I I'm here to listen and definitely ask anything specific um, that would be
Well, if it's
important
to
to
do
you.
with a child or school, my I am going through a custody situation. Her dad has dark hair, and he it's a very bad custody situation. And I did just change my address as of today to live with my boyfriend, and we have a big, large pond, and she was just out by it early, like an hour ago. And she loves
Okay.
being here, but she also loves her school. I have other issues with work going on too. That's why I said there was too many questions for me
Sure.
to. I just said general to kind of get a message. Maybe that would help.
Now, I am seeing something, and I'm not sure if this was something you were debating, but I do see something that would include contemplating moving back into that area, and that may be something that's upcoming. It may be something that's crossed your mind, but being that you would like to have this distance right now, it's like here you are, but is there something that seems like it would be easier or a possible negotiation that you would have to or would have to consider moving back over into the your prior area? Do you want to share what that's all
Uh,
about?
no, I would say that I'm happy where I'm moving. I just moved to. I It's my daughter that was relocated and moved to a different town and is in a different school. And in order for her to come back, she has to change schools, and she's not enjoying that thought. I never lived where she lives, so
Okay. I just see a difference between where
maybe
you are now and moving closer or over. It's like moving over a little bit, and that's part of a discussion. And I just want to let you know that that discussion is going to it's going to be upsetting, and it's going to pass. So I don't know what the tugging and pulling is regarding that particular discussion, but I would like to give you a peace of mind that that is
like me
going to
moving back to
pass.
where I was just living.
Yes. So
Yeah, I get that
unfortunately,
feeling a lot.
we do
But
not have much more time
yep.
left, and
Okay.
that feels to me like that would be the most pertinent information that you would need, that you don't have to go closer, whether there's threats or whatever it is in the future, that's not going to happen no matter how it looks, no matter how it's presented to you. And you did the right thing.
Okay.
You did the right thing. So on that note, Brittany, I'm going to tell you to enjoy. And if you'd like to hear more, just feel free to reach out, and you're good. So definitely
Okay.
enjoy. You deserve it. Take a nice deep breath and enjoy. Everything's going to be okay.